What would you do if you inherited an old English manor, but with one chilling catch? There's a skull inside, and moving it could bring disaster. Would you risk a deadly curse just to see if the legend's real? The tale of Bettiscombe Manor is enough to make even skeptics hesitate. They say this skull screams if anyone dares disturb it. Imagine hearing those screams echoing through the dark halls of an empty house. Would you stay? Or would you run before the curse makes you its next victim? Bettiscombe Manor, nestled in the quiet, picturesque Dorset countryside, hides a sinister secret that's been passed down through the generations. It might look like any other stately manor. Its stone walls and creeping ivy give it a timeless charm. But what sets Bettiscombe apart is something much darker. This manor holds a relic of terror, a skull that's said to scream and bring misfortune to anyone who's stupid enough to disturb it. The locals call it the Screaming Skull, and even to this day it remains an infamous legend in Dorset folklore. The story behind the skull is as twisted as it is tragic. Legend claims the skull belonged to an enslaved man brought to Bettiscombe Manor by one of the owners in the 18th century. Before he died, the man supposedly begged to be buried in his homeland, fearing that his soul would never find peace otherwise. But his final wish was ignored, and he was buried in English soil against his will. Soon after, the strange happenings began, as if the spirit was lashing out from beyond the grave. It wasn't long before the villagers suspected the skull, now unearthed, might be the source of the hauntings. Back in the 1700s, the wealthy Azariah Pinney, owner of Bettiscombe Manor, returned from the Caribbean with a young enslaved man, whose name, unfortunately, has been lost to history. This man, however, was no ordinary servant. On his deathbed, he made a solemn request to be buried back in his homeland. Ignoring his plea, Pinney buried him in English soil, unknowingly setting the stage for years of supernatural occurrences that would haunt Bettiscombe Manor to this very day. After the burial, villagers began hearing unearthly sounds and witnessing unexplained incidents. It was as though the dead man's spirit was disturbed. Eventually the man's body was exhumed and only his skull was kept, under the belief that this would calm the restless spirit. But the legend only grew as the manor's residents discovered that the skull could not be moved without invoking its curse, a curse said to unleash the screams of rage and suffering. The tales of what happens when people disturb the skull are spine-chilling. Locals claim that death and disaster follow anyone who disrespects the relic. Servants and visitors have tried getting rid of it over the years, burying it, throwing it out, even sealing it in a box. But each attempt to rid the manor of the skull has ended in horror. They reported hearing blood-curdling screams and ghostly wails echoing through the halls at night, as if the skull itself was screaming in agony. One especially grim account tells of a guest who, daring to test the curse, threw the skull out into the yard. He was later found in a state of sheer panic. He was catatonic, having claimed he heard the skull scream as he tossed it aside. Shortly after, he fell seriously ill, an illness so sudden and severe that it only fueled the skull's terrifying reputation. These harrowing events have left the skull firmly in its place at Bettiscombe Manor, as if the manor itself knows the very price of disturbing it. Over the years, Bettiscombe Manor's screaming skull has cemented itself as one of England's most unsettling legends. It's been said that even to this day, the skull remains at the manor untouched for fear of curse. Modern day visitors describe an eerie sensation when they approach the area where the skull supposedly resides, a sense of heavy dread that many claim is the restless spirit still lingering after all these centuries. For locals and ghost hunters alike, the screaming skull of Bettiscombe Manor has become a dark attraction, a tale of revenge from beyond the grave that no one dares to question too closely. Whether it's superstition or a genuine haunting, the skull remains a potent reminder of a past injustice that was never righted. Perhaps, some say, it will continue to haunt the manor until the remains are finally laid to rest in the man's homeland, wherever that may be. So, my friends, that is the story of Bettiscombe Manor's screaming skull, a skull said to be cursed, screaming its fury at those who dare to challenge it. Would you be brave enough to step inside Bettiscombe Manor and risk a close encounter with an angry spirit? Or would you respect the curse and leave well enough alone, as countless others have done? One thing's for sure though, whether it's folklore or fact, the tale of the screaming skull is enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Because sometimes legends have a way of sticking around, as do curses. As always, thank you for watching and thank you for listening to the penultimate video in the 10 video Halloween series. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, it really does help. And if you want to see more of my crazy content, please by all means subscribe, but don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're always informed whenever a new video drops. That's all from me, until next time, always remember, every scream in the night might not just be a drunken passerby, but something more sinister. Well, it's more likely to be the drunken passerby, but we'll go with more sinister. Bye bye.